The patterns are swell. Hello my swell sexy poopy faggots. It is I, your gay old pal Drew Pickles. Today I'm going to read some Tekken fan fictions. There will be two fanfics that you see me 90 found in the internet. Why two? Because you see me 90 didn't want this video to be longer than my 300-mile long penis. But to spare the fourth wall any more suffering, let's begin. This first one is called How Big Are They? By Dark Rose 55. I hope it's about the male character's cocks. Let's dive in. Hey, Asuka. What? How big are they? Asuka turned to face a curious blonde, her blue eyes full of wonder. Asuka raised an eyebrow, scared to ask what. How big are what? Asuka asked, just as curious. The blonde looked up at her. I'm asking you about your bosom. The blonde answered. Asuka gasped and narrowed her eyes at the blonde. What the hell, Lily? Asuka yelled. Lily giggled and pushed small strands of hair from her face and tucked them behind her ear. I don't see why that surprises you, Lily said, staring at Asuka. Asuka let out a noise to show she was frightened, inching away from Lily. Yeah, my guys. Never have I ever had a girl ask me that. Lily smiled. You should take that as a compliment then. Asuka groaned. No, I shouldn't. Why would a girl have any interest in knowing my bust size? Asuka asked. Lily let her wander over Asuka's body, taking in her shape. Lily knew Asuka was a little scared, maybe even disgusted. Mine are along the lines of a B cup, I might switch to a C soon. Lily informed Asuka with a smile. Asuka glanced at Lily and rolled her eyes. Damn. Why does Lily need to know my bust size? I'm totally not bisexual, and I'm pretty sure Lily isn't a bisexual either. Is she? That's good, for you. Asuka said sarcastically. Lily frowned. Am I scaring you, Asuka? Lily asked Asuka. Asuka nodded. A little bit, yeah. Lily giggled and moved closer to Asuka. I'm going to your D cup. Am I right? Lily questioned. Asuka blushed heavily and looked away from Lily. That's none of your business, she yelled. Lily giggled once more and moved closer to Asuka again, her bust pressed against Asuka's shoulder. So I'm right, Lily whispered in Asuka's ear. Asuka pushed Lily away from her. You freak. Why do you want to know how big my breasts are? You're straight, aren't you? Asuka asked. Lily recovered from the push and scooted back next to Asuka. Because they are beautiful. So bouncy, so full of life. Who wouldn't want to know? Lily answered. Asuka blushed again and looked at Lily. Lily raised her hand. No, let me finish. Not only are your breasts beautiful, but you're beautiful. I remember, when I first met you and I hated you so much. But now, I've seen past that. You're just so graceful, Asuka. I like that. There was a pause between the two team fighters. Asuka looked at Lily, who was smiling warmly at Asuka. Asuka bit her lip nervously, not knowing how to respond to Lily. You're so sweet, Lily, Asuka whispered, a small smile spreading on her face. Lily giggled and embraced Asuka tightly. Asuka could smell the sweet scent of vanilla radiating from Lily's soft skin. She shuddered when Lily started to run her fingers through her short hair. Lily giggled and lifted Asuka's chin to look in her eyes. She seen nervousness and worry in Asuka's soft brown eyes, and she liked that. Her eyes were a mystery to her, and Lily couldn't solve it until she had the evidence. Lily broke the embrace and stood from where she sat. She let her gaze wander on the green field in front of them and looked back at Asuka. Well, Asuka, I have go. Lily sighed. Asuka felt her heart drop to her stomach. There's still so much I haven't found out about her yet. Oh. Well, goodbye. Asuka smiled. Lily turned and bent down in front of Asuka. But before I go, I have something to give you. Asuka watched as Lily shifted and looked in Asuka's eyes. Close your eyes, Lily ordered. Asuka did, as told. She heard Lily's feet scuffing across the pavement, assuming she was switching positions in no time. She felt Lily's fingerless gloved hand stroke her cheek. Soon enough, she felt Lily's soft lips against hers, tasting her. Asuka's eyes flew open and she kissed Lily back. She tasted Lily's strawberry lip gloss, enjoying the taste filling her mouth. She wrapped her arms around Lily's waist and pulled her into a tight embrace. Lily moaned into Asuka's mouth and broke the kiss. She giggled. Not bad, your lips taste really good. Lily told Asuka with a smile. Asuka turned red. She never thought Lily would take any interest in her. Thank you, she answered, looking down at the pavement. Lily giggled and lifted Asuka's chin. You look really cute when you blush, Lily whispered. Asuka bit her lip again and watched as Lily started to walk away. She gasped. Wait. Asuka called out. Lily stopped and turned to face Asuka. Yes, Asuka. Asuka took a deep breath. When will I see you again? She asked. Lily giggled and smiled. In time, Asuka Kazuma. In time. Lily turned around and continued walking towards a black limo. She looked back again once she reached the limo, then disappeared inside it. Asuka watched as the limo drove off. Wow. I didn't know she was a good kisser. And that's the end. Excuse me for a moment. Bag, that was not fucking swell at all. I was hoping for a story with big juicy cocks, and this is what I get. A fucking lesbian story with girls kissing and talking about yerk boobies. You see me 90. This next fanfic better involve male Tekken characters having gay poopy butt sex, or I'll come to your house and fuck the fucking fuck out of you. Let's just move on. This next one is called Japanese Accommodation by Celicia. Hopefully this one will be swell. Here we go. Part 1, Ryokan. They took care of pushing the Futons together before bedtime, so, when the time came to retire, they simply lay down on their mattresses. The room was completely dark, but as their eyes adapted, the darkness settled to dusky shapes. A while went, and then there was a slight rustle. Jin's cover was lifted, and Warren moved to his Futon. A while after, he placed a hand in Jin's groin and let it rest there. Warren chuckled softly. He pulled up and swung a leg over Jin, sitting down. Jin's hands went to his chest and descended to his pants waistline, which was tugged down enthusiastically. Warren lifted himself up and stepped out of his pants before returning on top. He crawled forward just enough to reach a hand back and pull Jin's pants down. He hovered above as Jin pushed the pants legs off. The pants crumpled off and out of the way neatly. Warren settled again, but he didn't stay still for long, despite the delicious pressure. He felt around the tatami mat in the dark and took time to care for the routine. Then, he grabbed Jin's shaft and positioned himself. He concentrated in finding the right angle and lowered himself, sitting down bit by bit. Warren relished the feeling, free of pressure to move on. Gradually, he leaned forward, hands on both sides of Jin's head, and took a few teasing, delicious rubs back and forth. He bent low so close they could feel each other breathing, and the arcs grew from shallow and tentative to deep and secure. Jin wrapped his hands around Warren's pelvis and pulled him closer. Their breathing sounded heavy in the room. In the dark, eye contact never faltered throughout the wordless exchange. Later, Warren returned to bed, moving like a shadow across the room, and returned to Jin's side. Jin scooted over, close, and rested his head against the silky red strands. Part 2, City at Night. Warren was staring out the window when the lights went out. Soon after, the gauze thin curtains started rolling up. Not long after that, he felt a presence behind him. It's breathtaking, Warren said. So are you, Jin murmured and kissed his shoulder. Warren gave a laugh, though he was a little abashed. They looked at the city view that stretched before them, lights of all colors, from the comforting gold to the glowing neon, fanned out right and left and into the horizon. All-encompassing, heavenly blue, dark, that carried a hint of amber, metallic light. Glass windows everywhere that multiplied the vibrant colors in reflection. Nothing dulled to gray, nothing faded to anything less than a sight full of life. Warren felt hands on his abdomen. His towel was opened, and it dropped to the floor. The sudden breath of cool air capered in his skin. Jin shifted forward, and the coarse stare sent a heat surge to his skin that subdued the shivers of cold momentarily. Then, Jin's towel was loosened and cast away, and Jin pressed against him. Jin was hard, and it stirred him, too. That was a definite hiccup against his ass. Jin closed in on him, and Warren sought window panes in the endlessly panoramic glass wall and supported himself against them. Jin was rubbing against him. Jin's length nestled against Warren in a most debonair manner. The invasion dared further, the thick shaft rubbed against him, masterful. With the helping of a hand, Jin nudged himself closer, and Warren tuned in on the rhythmic grinding, fanning the heat. The friction of skin lessened momentarily and made way for something thicker. Warren shivered in reflex, but Jin pressed closer, safe and familiar, and the scare was replaced by excitement. Intent on pegging him, Jin lathered his shoulders with kisses, as he kept circulating the crown of his shaft against his entrance, searchingly. The pressure eased momentarily, Jin conjured essentials and left him in a state of infuriating arousal, but his solitude didn't last long. Soon, Jin was glued to his posterior and testing his back with his teeth and pulling him further behind by the hip. Warren bent his knees for Jin's benefit and Dash and his own and sought support from window. He braced one hand against the window pane, but the other he was forced to hold against the glass. He absently minded the fingerprints he was leaving on the unblemished glass, but he soon got something else to think about, as Jin started a painstaking glide in. Jin patiently stopped halfway and steadily ventured a little deeper. The thrusts had become more fluid and quicker in between, until he bore in all the way. The feedback was instant. Warren held in a cry and sunk against the glass, leaving an imprint upon it. Not that far, he managed. Sorry. Jin was quick to make amends. He eased off until Warren cooled enough, and returned with careful, slow dips at first. He detoured to Warren's lips, was met with hungry delight, and left much too soon. Shallow thrusts came to bore a little deeper, and Jin settled in his task with ease. As Jin found the pace and depth that worked for both of them, Warren found that his lips were forming words on their own volition. Hey, hey, hey. Jin had such vibrant energy that Warren couldn't spare a hand to rejuvenate his wilting erection. Before them, the full wealth of the 20th floor spanned through a window that wasn't a window, but an entire glass wall. Warren hoped it wouldn't crumble. It was open and exposed, exhibitionist and endlessly daring. It was like making out before the Eiffel Tower. The panorama had become more stylized. The spectral abundance had moderated to an interplay of midnight blue, headlights, and street lamps, an image of a starry night on Earth. Streams of cars passed by in their controlled, orderly fashion, dividing onto lanes just before the building, as if adhering to a virtuoso choreography. People were driving them, real people, Warren realized. Think anyone can see us? Jin stopped and gathered him close. His intimacy made Warren's skin prickle. The world can see you, baby. And that's the end. Excuse me for a moment. Poopy poopy fart fart poopy poopy fart fart. Jin, Kazuma and Horan are so fucking sexy. Here comes the cumulative swa 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 bag that lost well. Sorry, that Tekken fanfic got me so fucking horny. Well, I don't have any more Tekken fanfictions to read. Until next time, this is your gay old pal Drew Pickles saying fa 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 fa.